All right, we've got Lil Waspy back in the shop again. Last time he was here, we were just checking out that new Accuair system for the Jeeps. This time we're helping him with a little upgrade. This is a base model Jeep Gladiator. So it comes with whatever axles come in those things. I don't know. I think it's Dana 44s front and rear in this generation, but not 100% sure. But open diffs, smaller brakes, I think. Just, you know, not the beefiest stuff. And especially with him rolling on 40-inch tires, he wanted a little bit of an upgrade. So he actually found a guy that was getting rid of, actually I've got the front over here tucked away, a set of front and rear axles from a Jeep Wrangler Unlimited 392 model, which is the big V8 fast one. And I know those are, I think it's an M220 or 221, which is equivalent to a Dana 44, but it's got e-lockers, it's got different gearing, I believe, maybe bigger brakes. I don't know. It's a nice upgrade. It's the biggest axles that Jeep offers for these things, so it's got to be able to handle whatever he's throwing at it, unless he wants to go all the way to 1 tons. I don't think he's ready to do that yet. So good news for us is Jeep Wrangler Unlimited and Jeep Gladiator are the same front axle. So we'll be able to unbolt everything from this one, bolt it onto the new one, swap it right in. Should be a breeze. The rear axle, though, for the pickups, the mounting points are all different for the springs, the shocks, and the link arms. So we are going to have to fabricate new mounts for the new rear axle. So what we've done so far is knocked off all of the factory Jeep Wrangler brackets, and we left the welds proud on everything. We don't need to go all the way flush with all of this stuff because the new brackets that we've got, which are covered in grinding dust, but we got these from a company called EVO Manufacturing, I believe. Yeah, EVO Manufacturing. So they make this kit to swap 1-ton axles into a Jeep Gladiator. And I messaged them, told them what we were doing, and he said, yeah, it'll still work. You're just basically, you know, the axle tube diameter is slightly different, so we'll have a little more gap to fill with weld, but not a big deal. So yeah, so far everything's come apart real easily. Grinding the brackets off just takes a lot of time. So go slow, don't nick the axle tubes, and keep all that strength there. And likewise, when we weld, we'll keep a lot of heat in the bracket and try not to heat the axle tube a whole lot, so we're not risking a chance of warping it or damaging it in any way. So we're going to go ahead and get the Jeep up on the rack. I want to get the old axle out from the rear so we can just really accurately measure pinion angles. So when we put the new brackets on, we can have them at exactly the same spot. And then, yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. We need to look up the wiring diagram for the e-lockers and see if he wants us to wire those up. And then I just need to do a little more research on brakes. It looks like a lot of his stuff will transfer over, but we just need to confirm. So yeah, stay tuned. And when I check back in with you, hopefully we'll have this thing on the rack and have some axles out of it. Rick, you ready to take some 40-inch wheels and tires off of this thing? You ready for some CrossFit? Yeah. All right, let's do it. Okay, so got the Jeep up on the lift, supported front and rear with tripod stands. So now we can look at what it takes to remove the front axle. So sway bars are on a quick disconnect, so that'll make that part really easy, which is nice. Looks like disconnect steering, unbolt the bags, unbolt the brake calipers and lines and everything. Let's see. I wonder if we can keep the caliper connected and not have to re-bleed the system if these brakes transfer. We'll unbolt the height sensors so we can swing the lower arms out of the way, unbolt drive shaft, and vent tube, shocks. Should be pretty straightforward stuff. So let's get all of that disconnected and then we'll figure out how to safely drop this down. Well, that went pretty well. We got front and rear axles out, no stripped hardware, no broken bolts, no bloodied knuckles. No bloodied knuckles?
No.
Sweet. So now that we've got them both on the ground, we can just double check, compare the front and make sure everything swaps over with no issues there. And then on this rear, we're just gonna take a lot of measurements on the original spring perches and link mounts and everything. Make sure everything transfers to the new bracketry properly, get it tacked in place, double check the fit, and then get it all welded on. And then we should be on the home stretch. So not a real big task, although it does look like an awful lot. And I sure as heck wouldn't want to do it without a lift, but pretty thankful for having the hoist and some other tools. We took the transmission jack and used it to drop the axles down and then put it on the engine hoist from there to get them on the ground. So couple extra steps, but saves our backs. Yeah. I guess that's about it for now. I'll check back in with you as soon as we get the new rear axle mocked up and show you what we have going on there. All right, I didn't really show you much of the mock-up process, but here we go. This is the whole bracket kit welded on. So we had to make a couple modifications just because of the smaller axle diameter, but everything measures out correctly. We are going to radius this edge a little bit because the bags are slightly larger than the coil springs. So we want to make sure we have clearance for that. But other than that, we're just going to knock off a few of these little weld berries and everything. And then we'll get some paint on this setup and it should be ready to go in. So smooth sailing so far, hopefully no surprises. Quick little progress update. We got the rear axle up in position, all of the link bars, panhard bar, everything lined back up nicely, so that's a good start. We got the sway bar on. If you end up using this EVO kit, one note is the factory sway bar brackets have nuts welded on the backside of them, and I didn't catch that when I was putting everything on, so it made getting the hardware into position a little bit tricky, but we were able to get it. Just if I was to do it again, I would have welded some nuts on the backside of that and made our lives a little easier. The e-brake cables bolt on to the new axle on this little bracket, and then the factory axle had some tabs to retain this end of the cable. I'm gonna wait until the axles are, the axle shafts and brakes and everything are in, and then see where those need to be. I'm probably gonna have to cut the old ones off the original axle and transfer them over. I'm just hoping it'll clear all of the new lower shock mounts and link bar mounts and everything. So worst case, he might end up without an e-brake temporarily until we figure out a different solution. But so far, so good. Bags are in place. We've got clearance for them everywhere. So I think we're about ready to put the axle shafts in and hook up brakes and everything, and then see what still needs to be done. All right, with that rear done, we got back over to the front, did the combination of engine hoist and transmission jack, and brought the axle up into place. The steering linkage will need to transfer over, and the brakes and everything, obviously, but keeps everything lighter if we wait to do all that. So we've got the upper and lower links bolted back in, starting to bolt the drive shaft in, then we'll do steering, brakes, get the bags in position, hook up some wiring, and I think this thing's ready to put some wheels back on. All right, that should be about it. We've got the new axle in. We did have to change the steering. I don't know, what's this? The center link? Whatever you would call this. The Rubicon ones are longer because the axle's wider. So we swapped that over. Everything else basically stayed the same. We used the same steering linkage up here from the steering box down to the passenger side knuckle. I think that's okay. We'll have to just double check lengths on everything and make sure that all makes sense. But bags are back in place, sway bars back in, everything's tightened up, brakes are all back together. So we're just rolling these giant tires back in, and we'll go ahead and get this thing dropped down to where they just slide right on the hub, so we don't have to try and muscle them into position. And then we'll be back on track, back on four wheels. There you go. We got it aligned, did a nut and bolt check, drove it around, gave it a quick car wash, double checked fluids, set ride heights. We're all set. So turned out good. Drives really nice. I was impressed with the Accuair ride quality. Nothing to hate there. Goes down the road nicely. We ended up replacing one of his compressors. It had a tear on one of the piston seals. So we put a new one in. He's going to see about ordering a rebuild. But other than that, this thing's dialed. We are an Accuair dealer, so if that's something you might be interested in, if you have questions, definitely give us a call. We'd be happy to guide you through options and all of that good stuff. And if you need an installation, we can handle that too. So thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.